Daf Yomi Tractate Menachot, page 101a, top of the page, with the words De mi kle sharet lo eshkachan de mi parik. Alright? One cannot draw the conclusion that these substances can be redeemed, since we do not find a case where an item that has been consecrated in a service vessel is redeemed. Okay? Ubalmum hechi ikri tame ditanya ve'im kol behemat me'a asher lo yakrivu mimeni korban Hashem bibale mumin nifdin kakatuv medabel. The Gemara asks, and where is a blemished animal called impure in the Torah? And where is a blemished animal called impure in the Torah? The Gemara answers, as it is taught in a Braita with regard to redeeming an offering, and the Torah states, and if it be any impure animal of which they may not bring an offering to the Lord, then he shall set the animal before the priest, and the priest shall value it, whether it is good or bad. As you, the priest, values it, so shall it be. But if you will indeed redeem it, then he shall add the fifth part thereof to your valuation. Leviticus 27, 11 through 13. The verse is speaking of blemished animals that are redeemed, and they are referred to as impure because they are not fit to serve as offerings. Ata omer bebale mumin shenifdu o eno ela bebehemat mea mamash keshu omer im bebehemat mea ubuda be'ergecha hare behemat mea amura hama ani mekayim vim kol behemat mea the Gemara clarifies, do you say that the verse is referring to blemished animals that were redeemed, or is it referring only to an actual non-kosher, a tameh animal, as the plain sense of the verse indicates? The Gemara responds, when the verse states later in that section, and if it be of an impure animal, then he shall redeem it according to your valuation, and shall add to it the fifth part thereof. Leviticus 27:27. An actual non-kosher animal is mentioned as being subject to redemption. How do I realize the meaning of the verse? And if it be any impure animal, Leviticus 27:11, the verse is speaking of blemished animals that were redeemed, that have the possibility of being redeemed. Yachol yipadu al mum over tamid lomar asher lo yakrivu mimena korban Hashem. Mi she'eino krev el Hashem kol ikar yatzis hazo she'eino krev hayom ukrev el machor. The Gemara continues to discuss this halacha. One might have thought that offerings are redeemed even due to the presence of a temporary blemish. Therefore, the continuation of the verse states, of which they may not bring an offering to the Lord, which is referring to an animal that is not sacrificed to God at all. The verse serves to exclude this animal with a temporary blemish, which is not sacrificed today, while it remains blemished, but is sacrificed tomorrow after the blemish disappears. Moisiv Rav Huna bar Manoach Oifois va'esim halevoino Chlei shoresh nitmu Ein lahem pidyon Shelo nemar pidyon ela bebehema Bishlam oifois kedushas haguf Ninhu Lo nemar ela bebehema. Rav Huna bar Manoach raises an objection to Shmuel's opinion that even meal offerings and libations that are pure may be redeemed if they have not yet been consecrated in a service vessel. The Mishnah states, with regard to consecrated birds, wood for the altar, frankincense, and service vessels, Once they become ritually impure, they have no possibility of redemption, as redemption of consecrated items is stated only with regard to an animal consecrated for the altar that became blemished. Granted, birds are not redeemed since they are imbued with inherent sanctity, and the Torah states that only with regard to blemished animals, not birds, is redemption possible for items of inherent sanctity. But with regard to wood and frankincense, that is not consecrated with inherent sanctity until it is placed in a service vessel. And service vessels themselves that became impure, since none of these possess inherent sanctity, let them be redeemed. Rather, is it not that these items are not redeemed because pure sacrificial items in general are not redeemed even when they do not possess inherent sanctity? V'haninami afal gav denitmeu ketohoirim damu de'etzimu levoinu lav b'nei ashoye uchlaninu elachiba sakoidesh mashvelu uchla. These items too, meaning wood, frankincense, and service vessels, even though they became impure, they are treated like they are pure. Their impurity is incomplete because wood and frankincense are not capable of becoming food, and consequently they should not be susceptible to impurity at all. Rather, the regard for the sanctity of sacred property transforms their status into that of food, which renders them susceptible to ritual impurity. De'etzim kamzero mashbilu g'gzirin loy mishtachri levoina nami dechama deloy kid shebchlishoris lo miskashro klishoris nami hoil b'isle tahar b'mikveh. With regard to wood, as long as one does not trim it into logs, it does not become susceptible to impurity. With regard to frankincense as well, as long as it is not consecrated in a service vessel, it does not become susceptible to impurity. With regard to service vessels also, since they have the capacity to attain purity, in a ritual bath, their impurity is irrevocable. Their impurity is revocable. Apparently, the reason the Mishnah teaches that these items are not redeemed is because they are in some sense still regarded as pure, and consecrated items that are considered ritually pure are not redeemed, contrary to the opinion of Shmuel. Lo, lo'olam imelach tohoirin, v'yamaniv nuhani mishum delo shchichihu. The Gemara responds, no, actually I will say to you that in general pure items are redeemed, and these items are not redeemed despite the fact that they are not imbued with inherent sanctity, because they are not readily available. If these items can be redeemed when they are pure, then they may not be available for the temple service. Bishlama. Wow. Okay. Bishlama lavoinach leishores u'shchichi eles mishkach shchichi esim nami keven namama kol she'etz nimshna boi tala'as pasul legabe mizbeach hilkach lo shchichi. The Gemara challenges, granted frankincense and service vessels are not readily available, but wood is readily available. Why then may it not be redeemed? The Gemara answers, wood, usable for the temple service, is also difficult to procure. This is apparent since the Master said that any wood in which a worm is found is disqualified for use on the altar. Consequently, wood suitable for the altar is not readily available. Amar Rav Papa לשמואל הדתניא המספיס תמימים לבית הבייס אין פויטנוס על המזבח שכל רואה על המזבח אינו יוצא מידי מזבח לאוילם ויחד גדלו שסדומים נינו אין נפתין הויל לתוהר מהם הווה הוד הרבה. The Gemara continues to discuss the opinion of Shmuel that libations and flour for meal offerings are redeemed even when pure, as long as they have not been consecrated in a service vessel. Rav Papa said that if Shmuel had heard that which is taught in the following Braita, he would have retracted his opinion. The Braita teaches in the case of one who consecrates unblemished animals for temple maintenance rather than for the altar, they are redeemed only for use on the altar. They may not be redeemed for any other use in accordance with the principle that any consecrated item that is fit to be sacrificed on the altar may never leave the altar. And even though these animals possess only sanctity that inheres in their value, they are not redeemed, since they are ritually pure and fit for the altar. Had Shmuel known this Braita, he would have retracted his opinion. The Gemara responds, but that is not so. This Braita was heard by him, and he still did not retract his opinion. Rather, he explained it as follows. Didn't you say there, meaning earlier in the discussion of the Mishnah, that the reason one may not redeem wood, frankincense, and service vessels that were consecrated for temple maintenance is that since they are not readily available, the sages decreed that they are not redeemed. Here too, with regard to an unblemished animal that was consecrated for the temple maintenance, since blemishes that disqualify an animal as an offering are common, even a blemish as insignificant as one on the cornea of the eye also disqualifies the animal. Therefore, unblemished animals that are fit to be sacrificed on the altar are not readily available. That is why the sages agreed that unblemished animals, even when consecrated for temple's maintenance, may be redeemed only for use as an offering on the altar. By contrast, meal offerings and libations, which were the subject of Shmuel's statement, are readily available and may be redeemed even when they are still pure. Rav Kahana Amar Tamein Nivdin, Tahoiren Nivdin, V'chein Amar Rabbi Yehoshua Tamein Nivdin, Tahoiren Nivdin, Ika D'Amdi, Amar Rabbi Yehoshua Afil Tahoiren Nivdin. After analyzing Shmuel's opinion permitting the redemption of meal offerings and libations that are pure and have not yet been consecrated in a service vessel, the Gemara now cites a dissenting opinion. Rav Kahana said that only meal offerings and libations that are impure are redeemed, but those that are pure are not redeemed. Rabbi Yehoshua similarly said that those meal offerings and libations that are impure are redeemed, but those that are pure are not redeemed. There are those who say that Rabbi Yehoshua says even pure ones are redeemed. Rabbi Lazar says, with regard to all meal offerings, if they are impure, they are redeemed, and if they are pure, they are not redeemed, except for the tenth of an ephah of fine flour of a meal offering of a sinner, which is redeemed even if it is pure. The reason for this is that the Torah stated with regard to an extremely destitute individual who brings a tenth of an ephah of fine flour, and the priest shall effect atonement for him for his sin, that he has sinned. Of one of these it shall be forgiven for him. Leviticus 5:13. By contrast, with regard to a wealthy person who brings a lamb as a sliding scale offering, the verse states, and the priest shall effect atonement for him for his sin that he has sinned. Leviticus 5:6. The word al, which can also mean on, indicates that if an extremely destitute individual designates a tenth of an ephah for his meal offering and then becomes wealthy, he redeems his meal offering and adds money onto the original sum in order. So we see a poor person can become wealthy. Or a person with little original sum in order to purchase an offering that is appropriate for his current financial status. In that case, the meal offering is redeemed even if it is pure. Amar Rav Yehoshua Shmati Pigul b'mincha b'shimonim u'metamim b'tumas oichlin detnan orla v'gelek akerem. The Gemara cites another statement that Rav Yehoshua says, I heard. We'll continue on. Yeah. Continuing on to 101b. V'shora niska v'egla rufa v'zipor b'tzoyre v'peder chamor u'ba'asor v'cholov kulam mitamin tumas oichelim. The flesh of an ox that is stoned, a heifer whose neck is broken. We're on 101b now. The heifer whose neck is broken, the birds sacrificed by lepers, see Leviticus 14:4-7, firstborn donkey whose neck was broken, and meat cooked together with milk are all susceptible to the ritual impurity of food, despite the fact that they are forbidden for consumption. Okay? Right, so the Gemara, alright. So the Gemara cites another statement that Yehoshua says, I heard according to Shimon. We're back on 101a now. I'm just going over this statement again. The Gemara cites another statement that Yehoshua says, I heard a statement according to Shimon, where one rendered a meal offering pigul by sacrificing it with intent to consume it beyond its designated time, it is not susceptible to the ritual purity of food, as we learned in Brisa to Sefta Ugzin 3:12 Orla, diverse kinds in a vineyard, 101b, of the flesh of an ox that is stoned, a heifer whose neck is broken, the birds sacrificed by lepers, see Leviticus 14:4-7, a firstborn donkey whose neck was broken, and meat cooked together with milk are all susceptible to ritual purity of food, despite the fact that they are forbidden for consumption. We'll stop over here.